Welcome to episode 76, where we're joined by one of Star Wars' biggest outlets of all things Star Wars.
So, what have we here? You heard my call. Your imbalance will be.
Scruffy looking for Star It calls to you.
Welcome to episode 76, and thank you for joining us as we delve into our favourite live shows and moments. As normal, then, you're listening to your favourite Sith Lord, Jack, and joining me, as always, is my greatest and best Star Wars buddy and fan, it's Jimmy.
Howdy.
How's your week been, Jimmy?
Good, busy. We've had parent-teacher conferences. We've had we've had league cross-country. We got ourselves a league champion and one of my runners, one of my senior boys, went out there and put it down on the course. It was pretty awesome to watch. And then we'll be getting ready for more parent-teacher conferences this week, Tuesday night and all day Thursday, then headed off to regionals. So busy, busy, busy. How about yourself?
Nice. Yeah, no change. Busy and hectic as usual. Friday was a bit of a highlight as I got to go meet the Jacksonville Jaguars NFL team. We watched them train in Watford. And then obviously today they were playing the New England Patriots and beat them. Obviously the mighty Detroit Lions has beat Minnesota Vikings. So I'm in an excellent mood. Yeah, and obviously we've had the new Mace Windu book drop. More on that in another show. And oh boy, what an opening first chapter. But like I said, more on that later on. And speaking of more things, again, as always, we've had more explorers join us. So Jimmy, take it away.
All right. Not as long as the list has been. Good little reprieve, but I'll do my best with all these names. I'm not trying to mess anything up on purpose, and I am trying to get through these as fast as possible. So joining us this week on one of our social medias, we've got Daniel Burgess, Mark Rolfe, Chris Powell, David Stone, Aragon Yvette 23, Isaac Mendoza, Cassia Kerpay, Rockhard 21, Samuel Allen, Brand 5400, Scott Brand, Emilikar Siri, Aaron Arg, Bowie Ross, Weston Sanchez, Bryce Rankins, Felix Jimenez, Z, Laura Ahart, Matilda Backlund, Keith Whitaker, Scott C, CT275s, Chai Dude 36, Brandon Isaac, Andy Mayfield, David Dowling, Eagles.tv, Colin BCO, David Williams Davis, Sean Hicks, Alex, Chris McFarland, Karen Wee, Robert Galinio, Full Metal Wookie, I like that one, Nicholas Finn, Nathaniel Thorpe, Am Batista, Tracy Pax, Amat Shimi, and Varga Zoll.
Excellent job. As always, thank you to everybody that is joining us on all our social media platforms. If you want to join us, it's Explore the Force on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you share it with your Star Wars friends and family. And as always, follow us on all the social media platforms. Explore the Force, all one word. Now, let's head in then to this week's Force Encounters. Okay, so this week we were sent some awesome material from Studio Books. If you've not already seen it on our Instagram page, I've did a quick review of what we've got. In a nutshell, we've got some Jedi mind training puzzle book again, just to keep your mind sharpened and focused for you Jedi enthusiasts out there. There's absolutely pages upon pages of puzzles in this book. It's well worth getting, especially for long flights, aka celebration. There's over 200 and something odd pages in this thing. It's huge. It's £15. I don't know what that is in dollars. Jimmy, I have no idea. You can't get it abroad. But yeah, highly recommend Star Wars Jedi Mind Training. So a big shout out to Studio Books. And the next thing that they sent us was a doozy. Star Wars The Poster Collection. It's got 28 pull-out posters from all the TVs, series, all the films, the animations, everything. And this thing, I think, is absolute golden for collectors. Again, every single poster that you want, you can pull them out, frame them. You could go around, get them all signed if you've not got things signed already. And it all comes at £15, A3 size. Well worth the money, in my personal opinion. If you haven't got any of the posters and you're after them, honestly, £15, well spent. I mean, some of these posters at the minute, and we're talking like Return of the Jedi, A New Hope. You've got the Mandalorian stuff in there. That alone is going for, just one of those posters like nearly £10 in some places. So yeah, if you're looking for some collections, it's coming up to Christmas. I highly recommend Star Wars: The Poster Collection from our friends over at Studio Books. What have you got for us, Jimmy?
Mine is mostly book related, audio and physical books. I finished Padawan Pride this week. That was really good for only being like 4 hours long.
I enjoyed that.
Man, they packed a lot of stuff in there. They packed a lot of Easter eggs. Got some High Republic references. Got some little nods to the future of Anakin inside a mask. We got some more pod racing, so that was really fun. If you get a chance, I would go. And we just talked to Brando today about where we get started off with books. This would be an excellent place to jump into and start reading. And then, like you said about Mace Windu, I listened to the first 2 chapters of that. That was intense. I can't wait to dive into that, but I do have the pause button because I'm in the middle of Tears of the Nameless by George Mann, and holy rip.
Ooh.
Wow. There's a character in there that I just he's in the book from the start to the finish, but one of my favorites, overlooked, I think, from the phase 1 stuff. And it sounds like, I knew the journey was, the Force is guiding these people in the stories, and these authors, man, they do an absolutely astounding job bringing these characters to life and giving them meaning in the Force. And I got up early this morning and read for about an hour and a half or so, and just got through a bunch of chapters and just couldn't find a place to stop. I just went next. And oh my goodness, it's quickly up there's one of my favorites. Just these little things happening, and it's all kind of, it feels like it's all kind of coming together for the Jedi finally. I'm sure that it's not, but then there's a reveal. You're like, I'm only about halfway through the book, and I'm like, holy rip. So yeah, it's answer some questions from Temptation of the Force, answer some questions from phase 1. And again, I'm only halfway through it. So I'm super excited. I think some of it may have been spoiled for me because there were some photos posted of the Jedis in these crazy white robes with these masks and things on. And I'm wondering if that's down the road or not. I'm assuming that's something that has to do with something I just read, but I don't know that for a fact. But man, Star Wars publications, folks, if you know how to read, you should be reading. Or if you have ears, you should be listening. So these books, the stories, just I can't the emotions that you have while you're reading these, man, it's just so good. Just characters, the things that are happening, your anticipation that George Mann and some of these people have written with so far, just outstanding. So yeah, mine's been mostly reading this week.
Nice.
I think I got something this week. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I got my Jackie Black series. You may or may not have seen a funny video I made. So, but yeah, other than that, it was pretty fun. Pretty good week for Star Wars.
Yeah, nice.
That's all we got for Force Encounters this week. Let's head over to Bat 2 and see what we got coming out of there. All right, first off, New York Comic-Con. Man, there's a ton of stuff coming out of there.
Yeah.
Some stuff that we'll talk about maybe later. But new High Republic covers, concepts, titles for the books. Just lots of more. Like I said, my Force Encounter this week being books. This is really awesome. A lot more stuff coming out with like some concept art. Just Marvel Star Wars Jedi Knights announced. Like it's going to be nuts. So good things coming out of there. Been kind of quiet though. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't been on the socials as much this weekend or not. Been pretty busy, like I said, but scrolling through some things. I'm very excited about what I'm seeing.
Yeah, there's some awesome stuff in the novels. I've seen it's from the High Republic stuff, the Jedi stuff that you mentioned just before the Phantom Menace, and also some cheeky Acolyte stuff as well. That was revealed and chucked in there. I think that's from, I want to say Tessa Gratton, or was it Lydia Kang? One or the two, it might be neither, in fact. But yeah, lots of cheeky reveals over at New York Comic Con as well. And speaking about New York Comic Con, there's loads of new figurines, collections, and new toys coming up. 6 new Black Series figurines coming from the Skeleton Crew series, as well as other vintage collection figures. Even Sabrine Wren's in there, and the Howler from Peridia is there. There's an Imperial Snowtrooper from Hoth. Also, what I saw from the reveals was a Black Series collector's. What's the wolf likes? Character. I can't think of his name now. It's absolutely off the top of my head. What's it called? The wolf guy from Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head.
My mind's just gone absolutely blank. That was revealed, and that looks really, really good. The attention to detail. You've got all the cloak on there, all the accessories are on there. Yeah, that absolutely looks amazing. So yeah, lots of good stuff as always coming from New York Comic Con. I will get at them. There we go, Captain Prudis. There we go, Jimmy with the save.
Yeah, they have these names on the boxes. I'm gonna try to make a short or something this week with all these photos that they've got. But it says he's from Port Borgo, and then the kids have well, this one says Fern, and then some of them say some different things on them. I'm assuming that's where they're from or their planets and things like that. These things look great.
Yeah.
So pretty excited for that. Captain Brutus looks really cool. You got that, and Neil looks really neat. I don't think Neil is the same species as Max Rebo, though, given the way he's standing, and he might be like a different breed, or different, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look. I mean, because this guy he's got normal human fingers, and he's walking on his feet, which I thought there was the reverse for Max Rebo's. I can't think of their creature names, but they look great though. So KB on here, just absolutely they look awesome.
Yeah, collectors will be bagging those up, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. September. Okay, so we got some not so good news. September next year is the trial with Gina Carano and Disney. Will be held to see if her claims of wrongful dismissal and sexual discrimination will be upheld. She played Cara Dune in the Mando TV series. Was supposed to get her own offshoot as was it Marshals of the New Republic, I think it was called. They made that announcement, and then she had some issues with her ex, where she wanted to say, freedom of speech or whatever, and Disney was like, nah. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting because it's going to, this is going to set a precedent moving forward for actors.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I absolutely did quite enjoy her character as well in Mandalorian.
I've just never thought she's a great actress or actor, but her physicality is awesome. Yeah. I like having a tough kid, and I never really bought into her as an actor. But I like the character. I like the idea of the character. I understand why she was cast as it, because she does portray what they're looking for. But yeah, I'm curious about how this all is going to go down, because this will set a precedent for a lot of things that have happened in Hollywood. People saying whatever they want, which but it also just means I think companies will just put into their contracts like, hey, we have control of social media, or don't sign on the dotted line. Don't make those millions of dollars. So we'll see what happens. I'll be curious.
Yeah. Some Andor goodness though with Diego Luna, who's had an interview with Metro Star, and when asked about Andor 2, obviously his lips were sealed shut. However, he did say these little snippets. Quote is, "Oh my God, no, I can't say much. The only thing I can say is that this show has shown me how to be patient. We've been working for a long time. I can't talk too much about it, but I can tell you the wait is worth it. The amount of work behind the second season, and I think the connection between the audience and the characters is going to pay out. The beauty of this second season is that you can go straight to watch Rogue One, and it's going to have a different meaning. It's going to look different and feel different. That last line, look different, feel different, and a different meaning. Very, very interesting. I'm excited for Andor 2. I know a lot of people are. One of the highlights of Disney TV shows for sure, which we'll probably cover in the main part of the show. What do you reckon, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I mean, his personality as a human being is infectious.
Yeah.
So I think, him being that excited about something sounds just like he was for Andor season 1, and obviously that didn't disappoint. I'm super excited for the show. I'm thinking we'll probably do a rewatch before once we get a release dates. We'll probably do a rewatch
100%.
of Andor season 1. Talk about maybe the arcs as a whole or something like that. But getting ready for the main show today, I went back and I watched a couple things, and again, the rewatchability of some of these shows is just phenomenal. And I think it's weird to me that they hit harder the second time or the third time. I think sometimes though it's because it's new and you're like trying to process what's happening.
Yes, and I've got bits like that I'm going to speak about later on.
So for me, like I said previously, there was 2 weekends ago we did Rebels, and just going back and watching those with like not a fresh palette, like just all the connections that are coming that are there. Just oh my gosh, so good.
No, totally agree. And that wraps up then this week's news. Okay, so this week we are going to be diving into our favorite TV shows, and we're going to talk about our favorite moments as well. As always, we reached out to all the followers and explorers on all our social medias, and obviously the thousands, we can say that now, have sent their comments and their feedback back to us. As always, me and Jimmy have tried our best to get us through as much as we can. So if we didn't get your comment read out this week, hopefully we will read it out next week. Jimmy, start us off. What have we got?
All right. So, up first, we got our youngest fan, Cal, who said his favorite show is Bad Batch because he loves clones and Wrecker, and his favorite because he blows things up. That sounds about right. Also, we had Callum Barnes mention his is Rebels.
Okay. Gemma Reed said Kenobi, as it has her favorite characters and she loves the lore in it.
Yeah. Wayne Cooper Smith has gone with Mando and Bad Batch, just like Big Ed Friday, and also he mentioned Visions. So those are good, all over the map on those ones. That's awesome. Lots of things.
Like that. Ralph Fernandez also said Rebels, but he said Andor may surpass depending on season 2. So another one expecting big things from Andor.
Yes. Now, hang on a second. Is this a joke? Trevin Jones? Is he fooling with us? He has gone with the Acolyte. I didn't know that show hit so hard for him. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad.
Nice. Matt Franks has gone Andor as well, same as Conrad Prince. What else have you got, Jimmy?
Yeah, we posted a couple on some Facebook pages that will allow us to do that. Rebecca Slaughter said the Return from Mando episodes, Book of Boba Fett. She's got a long list here. She loves Star Wars. That's exciting. Ahsoka moment, anything Ezra, Andor. Oh man,
nice.
Yeah, loves it. One Way Out from Andor. And then Mike Shuto says, first of all, the baby Grogu reveal in Mando episode. So that was pretty cool. And then anything with Bo-Katan. Chris Canto says Vader burning Obi-Wan in episode 3 of the series was awesome. Audane Boss said the Book of Boba Fett was my favorite one, and the Skywalker saga. So yeah, lots of people with lots of love for all the different shows. Very cool. Different episodes, different moments. It's always good to see people enjoying everything that's out there for them.
Yeah, it just goes to show that there's so much out there. There's enough Star Wars for everybody. And like I mentioned, thank you so much to everybody sending in their comments. Hopefully, we've read yours out. If we haven't, again, just keep looking out. We will read them out in the future. Now, we've heard from our fellow explorers. Now, it's time to hear from myself, Jimmy, and our special guest. Okay, so fellow explorers of the Force, joining us today is a man renowned in the Star Wars universe. When he's not writing for Insider Magazine or scouring the internet for Star Wars content, or he's leading his band of fanfare raiders. Everyone, join us today is Mark Newbold.
Good evening. How you guys doing?
Very well, Mark. Thank you very much. Now, obviously, those that are watching on YouTube, you ain't going to be able to see Mark because he is literally covered up at the minute in bubble wrap because he keeps injuring himself and he's wrapped up in bandages. But apart from that, Mark, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. There's a bit of a delay. It makes me sound like I'm on Mars. It's rather cool. I'm all right. Yeah, I keep walking into things and picking things up
Oh,
wrong.
mate.
And they say things come in threes, don't they? So I've got something else on the way. I don't know what yet, but
Oh,
hopefully it's
God.
nothing too bad.
I hope it's nothing bad, mate. One of the clumsiest people I know. It was great to see you as well at Echo Base Live. What an event that was.
Oh, wasn't it? It's fantastic. It's always good. I sold there for the first time, and as I said on this week's Making Tracks, I found out and learnt the hard way. I'm not very good at selling
Yes.
stuff, so because I ended up buying more than I sold, so I don't think I've quite got the knack of it yet.
Brilliant. Have you had a chance to see much of the reveals coming from New York Comic Con? And obviously, you've dropped a load of stuff on Fanthatracks.com. But have you actually looked into it?
Yeah,
Anything that catches your eye?
I've had a look at. Yeah, a few bits. Some of the Black Series stuff is nice. The Skeleton Crew stuff looks really
Yeah.
nice. I really like the Sabine and the Howler. Got to say, I thought that was cool in the show. So that was a nice reveal. And I think it's just the one vintage collection Skeleton Crew. I think it's Jod
Yeah.
is out. So that's pretty cool. And then books wise, I mean, there's some decent books and
yes.
comics come. I'm looking forward to the Jedi Knight series, the Marvel
Yes.
Jedi Knight series. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of. Well, I'm going to have to make some room on my bookshelves. I know that.
Brilliant. Again, Mark, thank you very much for joining us. As always, if anyone's listening out there and wondering where Mark's come from, he's part of the Fanthatracks. Again, Mark, the floor is yours, buddy. Just let the listeners know where they can find you.
Oh, sure, yeah. Fanthatracks.com is the place, and it's at Fanthatracks on all of the socials as well. And if you want to find me, I'm prefect_timing, which is kind of a hitchhiker's thing because I'm a bit of a hitchhikers fan. So yeah, always out there ready to talk. And I've just started going on to Blue Sky because everybody seems to be navigating over to Blue Sky at the moment. So I might as well give that a go. It'll be the place of choice for about a fortnight, and then something else will open up, I'm sure.
Yeah, and also don't forget, guys and girls, as well. Again, if you like your live streaming stuff, Sunday nights, 9 o'clock UK time. I'm unsure what time that is off the top of my head for everywhere else. There is also Fanthatracks Live. The host Brian is a barrel of laughs. Normally he has. Does he have none? No, it's still Paul, isn't it? Paul's on there.
Paul, yeah,
9 times out of 10. But yeah, sometimes there's other guests on. But yeah, definitely worth joining them. So again, thank you, Mark, for joining us. As we alluded to earlier, then we are just going to do a countdown of our favourite episodes from our favourite shows, pretty much from Disney. I'll start us off, and then we'll just go round nominating each other as we go, keeping it short and sweet. We've heard from the Explorers. There's lots of different variation, and the first one I'm going to kick us off with is something that's already been mentioned, and it's to do with Cal, our youngest fan. But my fifth is Bad Batch Season 3 finale. What a episode this was. For me, the cavalry has arrived. We knew this was the final episode of Bad Batch. There was so much riding on this. I don't know about you two, but I was expecting someone to die.
No, it's fine. I'd say totally agree. I was certain that there'd be more carnage and more sadness. Not that I wanted it because I love the Bad Batch, but I agree. I was definitely expecting there to be, it's bad enough losing Tech at the end of season 2, but I was grateful in the best sense that they didn't go back on that decision because they could have easily done it because he was such a popular character. And I think if it wasn't, or the Batch weren't all played, with the exception of Omega, of course, by D. Bradley Baker, they might have felt more inclined to bring the role back because kind of that's someone's bread and butter. Whereas for D, it's just another voice because he's so brilliant. But I'm glad they didn't. But I did expect it at the end of Cavalry, and they didn't. It was great. It was literally everything I hoped for, which was let's give these old veterans a happy ending, and they got a happy ending. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. What about you, Jimmy? What did you think?
Yeah, I thought, just like Mark said, I thought they set a tone with the end of season 2, and I honestly didn't think any of the Bad Batchers were going to make it out of there. I had a feeling that they were going to close a chapter on this. Maybe that's a financial decision not to because they're so popular, which you can also understand from the business side of things. And I'm also glad because, I mean, watching Tech fall is probably one of the worst things in Star Wars. And so having them all there and having the potential for them to, another show? Can they show up? Those kinds of things. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah. And like I alluded to as well, we were waiting for people to die. The build up to this episode as well is what made it so good, and also the ending, classic Star Wars fashion, left us with more questions than answers. Stuff like who recruited Amiga in the first place to get her into the rebellion. Where's Echo now? Then during the whole Rebels thing. Why did Rex, is it Gregor? Yeah, Gregor and Wolf end up on Sealess? Where's the Sarge gone? What's happening to Sid? Did the kids get reunited? There's so many questions. But yeah, a fantastic ending to a fantastic series. So for me, it's sitting nicely at my number 5. Let's go to you, Mr. Newbold. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is the 5th episode of season 1 of The Acolyte, or we should probably say the only season, as it will probably stand forever, of The Acolyte Night, which I thought was phenomenal. I don't think we spoke about it on your show before. We certainly talk about it on Making Tracks Plenty, how much we did enjoy The Acolyte, and it felt like the launch pad for plenty of other potentially really interesting stories. But this episode, in the same way that Cavalry for the Bad Batch gave us a happy resolution and things didn't go down the toilet like we thought they would, things couldn't have gone down the toilet more for those characters in Acolyte than they did. It was brutal, but in the same way as I was happy it didn't go that way in Batch, I was pleased that it did go this way in Acolyte, because we're dealing with mostly new characters. The barriers are off. They can go for it if they want to, and they did. It was brutal, but sometimes it catches you on the hop, and that episode completely caught me on the hop. I wasn't enamored with the guns as everybody was going nuts about Manny's arms and stuff. That was all well and good. That was cool. But from a character point of view, it was a cool reveal. I don't think anybody was massively surprised that it was him, but just the way it played out and the choreography was phenomenal.
Oh yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, I have that slated hidden as my number 5 as well. So, and for some of the same reasons, the choreography, like I'm looking at my list and it's like 2 action shows and then 3 just like some dialogue stuff that I really love. But yeah, Acolyte episode 5, just this. I think we've seen anything like. I mean, I think the saber battles that in the last episode were better than anything we've seen in Ahsoka. And anything better than with the dark saber and Mando. I just thought it was awesome. And again, like Mark, like you said, like was not expecting. I thought they had all those red shirt Jedis with them, and that those guys were all going to bite the dust. Yeah. And then when they started taking out Yord and Jecki, I mean, I still haven't recovered, if I'm being perfectly honest. So, but yeah, we really enjoyed Acolyte here too at Explore the Force. We thought kind of the same thing you did. Like when that season ended, man, there's like so many cool storylines coming up and coming down the road, and it is kind of a bummer that we're not going to get those. But yeah, I thought that episode was awesome. Great choreography, great storytelling, and just fun, just really cool Star Wars.
Yeah, again, just echoing what both said, the choreography is fantastic. But also, let's not forget that this was probably the most highly anticipated episode of the Acolyte, because we'd all sat there in celebration. We'd seen all the Jedi turn, lightsabers coming on. You'd seen the swinging red saber. So yeah, they really met the expectations on this. And yeah, it wasn't a great surprise. I don't think it with it being Quimera either. But again, he didn't disappoint. I think that episode.
More surprised if it wasn't him. Like I think that would be more of a shock to people.
Yeah, I think some people are expecting Marek, but that's a different series / episode altogether. What have you got at your number 4 then, Jimmy?
Yeah, so for number 4, I'm bringing in the Kenobi series. Not the action-packed swinging and all the saber fighting, which that is part of this episode. So for me, Kenobi Part 6, it's when Kenobi is talking to Leia about Padme and Anakin.
Oh, yes.
Just, I thought that McGregor, he delivers those lines, and you believe that this is 10 years or whatever since the fall, or I don't know the timeline, but and then little Leia, her name is escaping me right now, her real name, but she did a terrific job of receiving that news and being happy with her family there. But just the stuff that he said about Anakin and Padme, I mean, when we made this list, and it was like the first things that popped into my head. And of course, you got the saber battles in that as well. So you can't, I mean, you get a little bit of everything, and you finally get your hello there that you've been waiting for, and you got the reveal at the end. But yeah, just action-packed episode. I thought that the season was up and down for me personally, but there is some really great storytelling. The dialogue, some of the best moments were like Kenobi and Leia just talking to each other, like him talking to her. I thought was
Yeah.
really powerful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, Vivian Blair is
That's it. Thank
incredible
you.
for her age. Yeah, she's an incredible actor for her age. There's lots of strong lore as well in that episode. Yeah, it's a strange one as well. Like I think it's a bit of an up and down series. It was filmed during COVID, if I'm not mistaken, though,
Mm.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously they did have some difficulties there, but the whole thing with Reva as well, sort of seeing her arc come to light. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic episode, and it did like you mentioned there, mate. There's the Easter eggs of hello there and whole Tatooine stuff. So it does really hit home for the veterans, I think. What about you, Mark? What did you think of it?
I love the show. It was sort of emotionally up and down because you could see that Ben was having difficulties and just the threat to the galaxy, really, the issue at hand.
Yeah,
But like you say, I think the big thing about Kenobi that really worked so well was the performances. Ewan was
yeah,
so up for it. Vivian was fantastic, and the revelation as Leia, and just all the other performances just work so well. Vader has rarely been so menacing. So yeah, there was a lot about that show to love. I really enjoyed it.
Mark, let us know what your number 4 is.
My number 4, it's the Clone Wars season 7, the final episode, Victory and Death. What a way to finish
Class.
off not just a season, which was a brilliant season, but just the whole run of Clone Wars, which obviously goes back to sort of 2008. It was epic. I mean, it was something
Yeah,
the fans wanted. The visuals were amazing. I thought the vocal performances in season 7 were really just turned up a notch. Not that they weren't
yeah,
great in the prior seasons. Not to say that at all, but I just thought season 7 it was just on another level. It was so cinematic. They could have released every episode of that season at the cinema and made good money. I do think Star Wars leaves money on the table sometimes, and this was one of those instances. George kicked off with those 3 episodes stitched together for a movie. They should have finished it by doing the same at the end. This should have been a movie. And that final shot of Anakin
Mhm.
Vader, with the helmet, just the way it finished was just priceless. Just it was a worldie, as football fans would say. It was a worldie. It was amazing.
yeah, yeah. That is a fantastic shot. Again, it's another episode that hits hard. Um, was it 7 seasons, wasn't it? You followed that for a long, long time at this point.
Yeah.
You mentioned the voice acting, superb. Yeah, they really brought that A game, didn't they, for this episode? I know you're a big fan of this one as well, Jimmy. What was your thoughts?
Oh yeah, like Mark said, I got at Anaheim. They aired these 3 episodes on the big screen in
Mm,
the main arena, and it was one of the highlights of my. Obviously I had my ups and downs with Anaheim celebration, but this was phenomenal to get to watch on the big screen. Um, and just I know I don't the mocapping for the action scenes and stuff like that they did with Maul and Ahsoka with live action. They brought Ray Parks back and everything like that. Just a
mm,
whole nother level. I think this is some of the best Star Wars, and like Mark said,
yeah,
too, that final shot, it's awesome. Just, I mean, people who don't watch animation are missing out.
yeah, yeah, for sure. My number 4 then, another animated series, Jedi Tales of the Sith Lord episode. This one for me really hit home. Um, sort of working backwards, Yaddle and Dooku battle, thinking that he's finally defeated her and she's still going, and then he actually does finish her off, and that's where you see the true turning point, I think, of Dooku. The whole poignant scene of where he's going to the tree, where he used to go to the great tree where he's sort of like meditating over Jin's passing as well, Qui-Gon Jinn's passing. That really does hit home, and something that keeps resonating with me is throughout the entire episode, a couple of ones previous, is he really wants to meet Kenobi, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Really does.
Yeah.
Really does. And that makes sense, obviously, for episode 2 when he does actually meet Kenobi and he's got him as his prisoner, so to speak. But yeah, it's a good point as well, where I think Yaddle is talking to Dooku and asks him, "Do you think that the Council's accountable for his death?" At that point, you sort of think, it's hard not to agree with Dooku. But the whole Yaddle battle scene at the end as well it's gut wrenching, isn't it? What do you think about that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I thought it was an awesome way to tie up some loose ends and to make you dislike or understand Dooku's fall, I guess, right? I mean, you had this character who just kind of disappeared, and everyone always was like, what's happened to her? And if you read the High Republic, you get to see her a little bit more, mostly in Phase 2. So you get a little more attention to her, and so you get a little bit closer to this character that you didn't know. So then you go back and you watch this episode and her fall. Dave, the idea of bringing that, like, I want to know from Dave, like, he sees this and is he always wondering as a kid, like, where happened to Yaddle? And then he finally is like, oh, I can make that. I can tell you. I just think that was awesome connect points. I mean, I don't want Yaddle to, go away, but the final, the final downfall of Dooku and send him, because, he was hesitant until that moment. Then he's kind of all in. He still feels hesitant even in Attack of the Clones.
Well,
but
yeah.
There's a few points in that where I think Yaddle's saying to him, like, whatever lies he's told, whatever he's done, that you can turn him in and bring him to justice and repent, so to speak. It's not going to happen if you've already seen episode 2, 1, whatever, but you're still screaming at the TV, like, please turn him in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good shout, that episode. It really is a good shout. I had it on my short list and didn't quite make it in there, but because Bryce does such a good job with Yaddle, and as you said, the action is so cinematic, and you've got Diarmid as Palpatine just sort of stood there like he does, just sits back and lets it happen, like you see him do at the start of Sith with Dooku and Anakin, like he does with Vader and Luke, really, in Jedi. He likes to just stand there. And we've seen him get stuck in. We saw it in the Clone Wars with him and Maul and Savage Opress, and he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. But yeah, it's just a masterful episode. So yeah, it's a great point about Yaddle as well.
I always wondered too, Mark, I don't know if you ever thought about this point, but introducing Yaddle speaking normally, I always wonder what that means for Grogu down the road. You know what I mean? Like, is he going to have like the quirky Yoda speech, or is he going to be, because like, I thought that was a brave move on their part to have Yaddle, had to make that decision. Like, is this how all these species talk, or is this just going to be a Yoda thing? I thought that was kind of a, I mean, it's they had to make a decision.
It's an interesting point.
Yeah. When they announced season 3 of Mando, and they had that crazy episode with Jack Black and Lizzo and Christopher Lloyd, and there was just a little part of me thinking, I could get on board with Christopher Lloyd being the voice of Yaddle, of Grogu. So I do wonder where they're going to go when he finally speaks. Is it going to be like a baby voice, or is it going to be an adult's voice? I'm sure they must be agonizing and doing so many tests, to get that right.
You imagine.
Yeah.
It's got to be right as well, otherwise, it's going to affect a lot of things.
Totally.
There's a lot of fickle Star Wars fans out there.
Well, is there? Really?
With everything.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we're into our top 3 now. Mark, do the honourable pleasure then. Start us off. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is season 1 of The Mandalorian, episode 5, The Gunslinger. I'm not saying it's the greatest episode. I think it's a cracking episode, but there's so much in it, so many little moments that lit me up. And the one that sticks in my head more than anything, it's not Fennec and all the other stuff going on. It's not Boba Fett turning up at the end, which is definitely, without a doubt, cool. There's a shot when they're leaving the township and they're just going into the dunes on the speeder bikes, and the camera's sort of just sitting back a little bit as they start heading off. And it's just got such a great scope and feel. And it reminded me of Star Wars Galaxies, actually, when you used to go wandering off into the middle of nowhere. And there's just something about it that just really clicked for me. But just the whole episode was great. It was brilliantly directed. and the characters are just so engaging, and Mando's on it. Just I dig that episode. It's one of the most Star Wars feeling episodes of them all, because it's not bashing you over the head with the Easter eggs, because we know sometimes how overt it can be, but other times it can be too subtle when you miss it. This was just sitting in the sweet spot for me. So yeah, it was a really cool episode.
Yeah, it is a cool episode. There's so many Easter eggs, like you mentioned, in it as well, though. Mark Hamill's in that as a voice actor for one of the droids. I think it's EV or something like
The
that.
Cantina, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't realise that. Obviously, Ming-Na Wen, she's in her own league as it is. Anyway, but that is an absolute corker of an episode. What's your thoughts on that one, Jimmy?
Yeah, just same thing. I can't really add too much. Just a great episode. The reveal at the end of it's pretty insane. Some really good, for being on the volume, some really good shots. Because I mean, I have had my issues with the volume when it comes to like large spaces looking kind of silly, but when they get some of those shots like that, they're really good.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one. I'll start us off with my third one because it sort of sticks with the Mandalorian theme, and this my top three was really difficult for me, but Mandalorian season 2, and it has to be the rescue.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be the rescue.
Yeah.
It's just iconic. I don't really need to say too much. Luke Skywalker's back, but what really does it for me, and this is sort of taken away from the episode, is it's not really what happens in the episode that really hit home for me. It's all the secrecy around this episode. People thought this was. I've heard rumors they thought it was Plo Koon.
Yeah.
They did everything they could for it not to be leaked and come out as Luke Skywalker. And I think that is what made it so special. You see that X-wing coming into dock, and I think my initial thoughts were like, Wedge? What's going on? Who could this be? And then as soon as I saw the cloak, I thought, no way.
Yeah.
Then you get the green lightsaber, and you're sort of like thinking to yourself, okay, I don't want to say it's Luke in case it's not, but I'm getting excited, And then it just the build up, and then it is Luke, and it just goes from there. But then, not to take away from the Mandalorian and Pedro Pascal, you get hit with a massive high, and then you get hit with a massive low that Mando and Grogu are splitting up.
Yeah.
It's such a fantastic episode that takes you all the way up there, then back down again, and it leaves you wanting more in classic Star Wars fashion. What's your thoughts on it, Mark?
I've got that down as my number 2, the rescue. So we're very much aligned in our thoughts on that one. Yeah, totally. For everything you've just said, seeing Red 5, igniting the green, going through the Dark Troopers, just all the little elements. And I was kind of the same. As soon as I saw the X-Wing, I thought, because I didn't know he was coming into it, I thought, oh, wow, that's got to be Luke. Is that Luke? And I was watching it with my wife, and she mentioned it the other day when we were talking about making this list. And she said you were edging forward in your seat to the point where at the end, I was literally on the edge of my seat. So every time something happened, I was like, I kind of tried, maybe it's so-and-so. Maybe it's such and such. I didn't want to be disappointed when it wasn't him. And then when the cloak came off and it was him, it's just phenomenal. And just little, as you say, it's not so much about the story because, it is all about that final payoff, and the helmet coming off, which has such a big part of season 3, and just lots of little elements there, and then being separated. And okay, the reunion was kind of disappointing when it happened in Book of Boba in those 2 shoehorned episodes, but nevertheless, the way we were left, 4 years ago now, ridiculous. Season 2 Mando was 4 years ago.
Wow, crazy.
We've never quite got back to that hype and excitement that we had then. It was kind of a watermark moment that we need to try and get back to. Collectively, and we've come close. I've got an episode that I rate higher than this, but it was very special indeed.
Nice. What about you, Jimmy?
Yeah, same thing you guys said. I loved how the X-Wing comes in, and you're like, okay, that's got to be Red 5. And this is back when, these shows released at like 5 o'clock in the morning for me. And I was getting up Friday mornings to watch them so that they weren't spoiled by social media. So I'm like groggy. And, they did a good job of keeping the camera because they're watching, what we find out to be Luke. They're watching him in black and white. So he gets there, he ignites the saber. You can't tell. You're like, okay, is it? No way, no way.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I probably said no
That's
way.
a good point.
In bed, like usually just kind of like laying there, and I was like sitting upright, like no way, like what? And then when they finally went to green, and he just goes ape on those dark troopers. Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff.
That is a good one. So, Mark, we know that that's your number 2, but what is your number 3?
My number 3 was the gunslinger, and as you say, my number 2 was the rescue. Exactly the same. So I was agreeing with you there. Yeah.
Nice. What about you, Jimmy?
My number 3 is going to come from Ahsoka. And basically, so it's episode 6, Far, Far Away. It's when they first get there, like Balin and Shin and Sabine get there on the Eye of Sion. And this is, I think, I liked Balin up to this point. I thought he was an interesting character, but he does a lot of exposition on like his time as a Jedi, and I can just watch him talk, listen to him talk.
Yeah.
He talks about Peridia the one time and talks about, everything. I watched everything I love burn, and he talks about Peridia, and then he has that conversation later with Shin about, about the Boken Jedi and how she was raised. Dave doing a good job of getting some questions out there for us to, wonder about in season 2. I just think it sets up a ton of things for Balin. It's also, I think, his chat about power, and how it's inevitable. I mean, that monologue of his is spectacular. Only beat out by my number 1, really, when it comes to monologues in Star Wars. There's not a ton of good ones, like great ones. We've gotten some in these Disney Plus shows, though. We've been very fortunate to get a lot of great speeches.
Massively.
So that's my number 3 is Balin. And I love this the Ahsoka show. So
yeah, that's a great shout. And like you mentioned, mate, Balin was such a hidden jewel, or Ray Stevenson, feel like was such a, not really a hidden jewel, to be fair, because I know I did the voice of Gar Saxon and everything, but as an actor and seeing him in live, he fitted that role so well.
Yeah.
I think Disney's faced with a really tough choice who they're going to bring in and how they're going to use this person, because they have such a hit on their hands, but it's never easy to, you think about like Dumbledore. That's about the biggest thing I can think of.
It's a good shout,
Dumbledore. Yeah. By the time you're done with season, the 7th movies, all the movies, 8 movies, sorry, like that Dumbledore is, it's fine, but you're not going to get that much more time with this new Balin. So they've got to really kind of bring it home, I think. 'Cause that's going to be tough. We're faced with a lot of tough choices.
Yeah. Totally agree. Where are we at now? What number are we on? Number 2, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Again, we know what Mark's is. Jimmy, do you want to start us off on this one?
Sure. Mine is going to, ironically, mine's going to be Mando Chapter 3, The Sin.
Okay.
This, I don't know why, this is Deborah Chow's first episode, I believe, of Star Wars in the Star Wars universe. This is the one where he decides he's going back in, because he starts asking questions, and I think he goes in there, and you see what the Mando can do for we've seen him do things, but I don't know what it was about this episode where he kind of goes back in for Grogu. And then, of course, you have the big reveal of all the Mandos coming and flying down with their jetpacks. That scene still, he got his blaster, he's incinerating people. There was so much action in this episode, this chapter, that it just blows me away. And it's probably my go-to Mando episode. Whenever I want to watch an episode of Mando, I have, a couple minutes to spare, I will throw that on. Just the action. And I think that's the potential of what the Mando is. What I hope to see with the movies. I think they, like Mark said, I think they fell a little short, maybe lost their way a little bit in season 3 with they introduced a lot of new people, so it wasn't always going to be about but I love the action, and seeing those Mandalorians, that whole, the Coven coming through, that was like the Clone Wars come to life, and I was just blown away by it.
Yeah, great shout. Great shout. What do you think about that one, Mark?
Yeah, I think that show just got off to such a hot start in so many ways, and we talk about it a lot on our show. It's tricky, I think, in terms of, let's say, Boba Fett now in 2024 to tell a satisfying Boba Fett story that's set post Mandalorian, because when Favreau pitched the idea of Mando to Lucasfilm, clearly they'd had the Josh Trank Boba Fett thing that never went anywhere, and they probably weren't going to do much else with him. So when some big name Hollywood guy like Favreau, who's had all the success with the Marvel stuff and Elf and everything else he's done, comes along and says, I've got a great idea for a TV show, and it's about this Mandalorian guy, and you just cherry pick all the coolest aspects of Boba Fett, so that when you actually get to do Boba Fett, it's kind of, for a large portion of the audience, it's like, this is just the Mandalorian again. It's a bit like when they went to do the Judge Dredd movie in '95 with Stallone, and RoboCop had got there in '87. So RoboCop took so much of what Dredd was that Stallone had to do something different with Dredd, and it feels like a similar thing. So that being said, in the broader aspect, like Jimmy just alluded to, the broader aspect of Mandalorian culture, now all we had before was really Jango and Boba telling us pretty much everything, and Sabine a little bit in Rebels, but not so much. But now, and obviously the Mandalore stuff that was happening in Clone Wars we'd had, but now you've got this covert that has a different opinion, a different view of what the Mandalorian culture is, and we see all the clashes of cultures there, which is that's classic storytelling. It was a bit special just to open the scope of what they could be.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll just echo what you two said, because my number 2 ties in with Jimmy's number 2 to an extent anyway, but it's Mando Season 1, Episode 1. Literally for all the comments you've both made there, but for me, this was another generation's hello, welcome to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When this was released, the whole reveal with Grogu, which I'll go into in a bit more detail shortly, everywhere exploded. And then finally, Star Wars is hit TV, not cinema at the minute, hit TV, and it has really took off, to people of all ages, because a lot of people put off with the animated stuff because they thought it was just for kids, which it really isn't, if I'm totally honest. But for this now, the Mando really did pull everybody in. It was a cool space cowboy. It was the Boba Fett stuff that everyone wanted, but wasn't Boba Fett at the same time. So many different species, so many different things going on. For me, it was the perfect, it was the perfect thing, I think, for him to bring out at the right time to not pull Star Wars out the ashes, because it wasn't dying, but it did reignite the flame, I think, for a lot of people, new and old. So yeah, for me, Season 1, Episode 1. Again, I'm not going to ask you for your thoughts, gentlemen, but yeah, it was a big one. It was certainly a big one. Now, we've come to our number 1. Jimmy, we'll finish up with you this time, but we'll start with Mr. Newbold as the guest.
My number 1 episode of the modern era so far, it's Season 1 of Andor, Episode 12, Rick's Road. Just so many things had led to that, got these 3 episode arcs just chunking its way towards the conclusion, and the tension builds. I can't remember a show, let alone just Star Wars, I'm talking any show, that just ratcheted the tension, ratchet. You can just feel the gears turning, people getting more and more wired and wound up, to the point where the simmering over, the boiling over made all the sense. You've obviously got Marva as the centre point of that episode with her speech. I know Luthen does some amazing speeches earlier in the season. Phenomenal stuff. How they didn't win acting awards is utterly beyond me. But for me, Marva's speech, when she's basically saying, F the Empire, and just the rallying call of all rallying calls. And she's a brilliant actress anyway. So just everything about it was just phenomenal. And just the end of it, you don't know. It reminded me weirdly of Rogue One in the scenes when they're leaving Jeddah after the Death Star has just basically nuked it. And there's just that sense of dread, like, oh God, what's happening now? What's going to happen next? And this had that tone where, again, it's Cassian bugging out of somewhere that's pretty much destroyed, and you just know that, it's not going to end well for all the people that are there. And it's a long wait to Season 2. I know we're still easily 6 months away from Season 2. It's a long way off. So the sooner that comes, don't want to wish my life away, but the sooner that comes, the better, because I need to know what happens next.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. All good things come to those who wait, though.
True.
Fantastic. Again, you hit the nail on the head there. It's the build up, the big crescendo. Is it B2 Emo, the droid?
Yeah,
It is, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, so in that plays a part. Even when you see it get sort of pushed over, you're screaming at the TV. Oh, I was anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I think there was a thing where she wanted to swear in it, and they cut it out.
Yeah, I think they filmed it and
Right.
they didn't. Yeah, I think they filmed it and they didn't use it, from my understanding,
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, it came across really well. Again, she's an amazing actress. The whole build up towards that is great, and yeah, you really do feel why so many planets. Because it's quite easy to say, you know, the Empire's brought law, it's brought justice, etc., etc. But you really do see it from, you know, why people would stand up to that sort of authority. What about you, Jimmy? How did that episode
Oh my
make
gosh.
you feel, mate?
You take Aunt Petunia and you plop her down in the middle of Rogue One. Phenomenal. Fiona Shaw probably, like Mark said, probably does deserve something for that, because you take someone that I know here in the States, like, as Aunt Petunia, she's not a well liked human being. And sometimes, Star Wars fans can hold things against people for their acting jobs. But she came out and just, I mean, she has that line where, Cassian's like, well, I'm going to miss you. She's like, that's love, isn't it? But yeah, this episode, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this show in Star Wars. And it's just, I mean, captivated people. I know some people don't like it because it wasn't like family friendly, but as an older, as an adult, I loved it. This episode, I mean, every episode was pretty awesome, but yeah, this episode was really strong. And that speech, just, you can just feel the rebellion kicking off from that. And it's nuts.
It ignites the fire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even inside you.
Light the spark.
Yeah, it lights the spark. And that leads us nice. It's like we've rehearsed this. We really haven't. But it leads me nicely into my favourite episode of all the live action stuff, including the animated stuff, is One Way Out, Andor Season 1, One Way Out. That episode for me was unbelievable. The whole arc, the crescendo again. Andy Serkis is an amazing actor, as we know. Diego Luna's phenomenal throughout. But the biggest thing for me from this episode, and I was fortunate enough to do it at Celebration, was the cult. The whole running around chanting One Way Out. I don't think I've ever seen something like take off like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was awesome to watch.
Oh God, there was got to have been hundreds of us at Celebration doing that, and I stood there. I think you was with me, Jimmy. I think was you with me?
I went up to the top level when I was recording it, because I sent you some video
of it after. Yeah. And we just ran literally riot, just like the series. But yeah, again, just sticking with the episode, fantastic shots, great build up. But then the ending, he gets there. There's freedom, and he can't jump because he can't swim. Literal cliffhanger, I think, is the term I'd use for that. What did you both think about that episode, Jimmy? I'll start with you.
Well, let Mark go, because this may or may not be my number one as well.
Oh, God, Mark.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, like you say, it was another one where, because they've broken the season into those little 3-episode arcs, which is a great way of doing it, because you get your rising, you're building towards some sort of crescendo every 3 weeks. The end of that was so, it was almost like a Twilight Zone or a Tales of the Unexpected. It's like the twist, shock, oh no moment at the end. When you realise this poor guy who's like put it on the line, and he must have known. I mean, he knows he can't swim. He knows he can't swim. So to do what they all did and to get to that point was just everything about that Narkina 5 arc was fantastic. And just on the celebration point, I bought the outfit. And I was ready to go at Celebration, and I had to go back up to the podcast stage because I was hosting the stage and couldn't do the run. So I've got the outfit, and I've never done a run. So and I can't run at the moment because I've stupidly hurt my foot. So I'm gonna have to wait a little bit. But one day I will do my One Way Out.
We're doing it.
Yeah, totally.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it with you again. I'm more than willing to do it again.
You can piggyback me. You can piggyback me. That would be fine.
More than happy. More than happy. What's your thoughts then, Jimmy?
Yeah, I love this episode. Now, it's funny because I was, looking for the speech of Luthen Rail, right? His everything speech. And I think sometimes I forgot that that's also part of this. Like, it just, because that's what I'm sitting, I'm scrolling through the episodes trying to find it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like this is part of One Way Out. Like that, I mean, that arc, like Mark said, like, get these slow bills. And I know some people didn't like that, but man, each one paid off. Then to have Luthen's speech and just what he says, oh my God, like, because that's why I picked this one is because of Luthen Rail's speech. And he just, I mean, again, another actor who, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's Star Wars, they don't take it too seriously or whatever when it comes to like the award shows here. And they should, because, he comes down that elevator. He's talking to him for like 5 minutes before you can even see him. That guy, I can't think of his name right now, but he's doing a great job just being upset and wanting out. And it just, we've got you basically. You're not leaving. And he just unleashes on him. It's like the first time he realized, like, what have you sacrificed? And he's like, he's finally allowed to like complain about what he's done, and he just goes off. It's delivered by Skarsgård so beautifully, and just and I think also it kind of tells you like what's going to happen in season 2, with his character. But yeah, I'm blown away by that speech. I had picked that for our little clips that we did, but yeah, so that one for me just outstanding. And it's funny to me too, because like I think as the older we get, like some of these things over the action scenes, a lot of us seem to be really gravitated to storytelling, which is awesome.
There's so much meaning to them all. Each episode, I think we've all chosen, it resonates with us individually, and then brings us together collectively.
I'll totally agree with that. And I think all of us, if you asked us next week, pick your 5 favourite episodes, we could wipe the slate clean. I think we'd probably pick some of the same, but I think we'd also probably pick quite a few different ones as well. I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because you didn't get to. I mean, I didn't get to put, Twin Sons episode on here. I didn't, I mean, there's so many things. It just how good Star Wars is. All the complaining online and all the hate. Just chill out. Go watch the shows. You'll be a happy Star Wars fan.
Totally.
Yeah, there's enough Star Wars out there for everyone. And I think that about wraps this week's show up. So for everyone that's listening, again, thank you so much for listening and supporting us. As always, Mr. Newbold, let the fans, the listeners, the explorers know where they can find you, buddy.
Absolutely. Just find me anywhere at Fanthatracks. And just to say, keep up the great work, lads. It's a joy being on here, and it's great to listen as well.
Thank you very much, Mark. Super appreciate you. Again, without people like you, Mark, we wouldn't be hitting over 1,000 people on Instagram, let alone the other social media platforms. We're going from strength to strength. And if you want to join us, it's Explore the Force, all one word. We're on Facebook, Instagram, we're on TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. The next goal is going to be 500 subscribers, which we're quite close to over on our YouTube. So Explore the Force, all one word. As always, we sign off with a little saying. I was going to do Luthen's, but it's too long. So whilst you two think of one, whilst you two think of one, I'll kick it off. A Jedi must have the deepest commitment, the most serious mind, and that comes from Studio Books, Star Wars Jedi Mind Training Book. Mark, have you got anything for us?
Yeah, I'm going to do the family-friendly version of Marva's rallying cry at the end of Rick's Road. I'm going to go, beep, the Empire. There you go.
Brilliant. Knocks it out of the park every time. Cheers, Mark.
Yes. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad I finally got to meet you on this episode. I don't remember where I was last time you came on the show, but thank you for everything you've done for us. And just keep up the great work over there on Fanthatracks. You really set the tone for the rest of us to kind of follow, and we appreciate you and your positivity. So thank you again. And for all of us, we have spoken. We'll see you guys next week.
See you later.